But when the opening verse said, Isaiah, the son of Amos, and blah, 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 he tells us in chapter 6, he gives one of two kind of calendar points. I love that the Bible has these because it immediately illustrates the whole scene. Uzziah died, we know exactly when, 740 BC. Sennacherib was assassinated, we know exactly when, 680 BC. So Isaiah wrote this book between 740 and 680 from internal evidence. Very fascinating. Probably means nothing to us until you look at it. When you look at all the nations, remember I told you at the beginning of Proverbs, sacred history means every Bible history, the history surrounding the Bible, I call it sacred history. Everything happened sometime. When did the book of Isaiah happen? Right here. See this little trough right there? What was going on around Israel? Assyria. See, the Assyrian kings are marching through their empire. Babylon hasn't yet started. It doesn't start till 626. The Persians, their empire is further off. And so right here, Isaiah is at the tail end of the Assyrian empire. Now, if God didn't want us to care about that, he wouldn't have had Isaiah put a timestamp in. See, whenever there's a detail in the Bible, it's not haphazard. The Bible was supernaturally engineered by God with a reason for everything that's in there. The reason certain names are in there, the reason people's names. Did you know one of the greatest people of the ancient world, Sargon is his name? Do you know how much he's in the Bible? One verse, his name only, nothing else. That must have infuriated him because he was kind of like the most powerful man in the world and nobody paid attention to him in the Bible. That's because the whole purpose of the Bible is not to chronicle Shalmaneser the Fifth. It's to show God's message through Isaiah. That's why it's there. Well, where does it fit in all the empires? Look, the Egyptian Empire, and this is when they were at their peak, was at their peak around the time of the Exodus, 1450. The Hittite Empire, Hittite. How many of you have heard of Hittite? Who's the most famous Hittite? Uriah the... that was Bathsheba's husband. That who killed? Did you know until 1910, what year are we in right now? 2023. Until 1910, no one in the world believed there were Hittites. Every encyclopedia, the National Geographic, if you've ever heard of it, everybody said the Hittites are a mythical people that only show up in one place. They're mentioned dozens of times here. But they had found even ancient Greek, we're talking about Alexander the Great's time. Their historians said there are no Hittites. But who said there were Hittites? God. So guess what? A German businessman, industrialist, was living in Turkey, because if you know anything about, if you studied World War I, the Germans helped the Ottomans, and so he was building stuff in Turkey. And he was sitting at the bar in Turkey, drinking, when a bunch of Turkish men were at that corner of the bar, and he was listening to them. And he finally walked over to him and said, "What did you say? You were riding your donkey out in the, what did you find?" They said, "We found all of these larger than human statues of people with animals' heads carved out of stone sticking out of the sand." He said, "Really? Do you know where it is?" They said, "Oh yeah." He said, "If I pay you, will you dig around and see what else you can find?" This is at the bar in 1910. And this guy discovered one of the most amazing empires. that basically was kind of like dominating all of what we would call modern day Turkey and they ran the metals trade, and they had some of the best weaponry. They were kind of like, what's the big Korean manufacturing, that big company that makes all the big stuff, all the defense stuff? What's it called? Yeah. I mean, it's known globally, the heavy industries that can make all that. That's what the Hittites were. But they were so completely defeated that the sands covered them over, and until 1910, and this guy paid for them to start digging it out, and they found some of the most. Bonnie and I took our class in Paris to the Louvre, the big art museum. I don't know, I never looked at a single artwork there. All I looked at is what they dug out of the Hittite Empire. They had the most beautiful, they were so skilled. Why do I say that? Because the Bible's history is so powerfully true that all you have to do is dig around and you find it. And every time they dig, they find more that the Bible says is there. Okay, so we have the Egyptian Empire, the Hittite Empire that nobody knew about until they found it. The Assyrian Empire, the same is true with that. I told you about that already. I won't repeat it. In 1838, a British Bible believer took his Bible over to the Tigris and Euphrates, and he said, there has to be a Nineveh here somewhere. It's in the Bible. Jonah went here and preached. And he found it. And he found everything the Bible said that's in Isaiah. Then we have the Babylonian Empire, and you know about Babylon and everything. But look, why I said all that is, look at that red line. That's where Isaiah is. He was living after the Egyptian, Hittite, and Assyrian empires, between the Assyrian and the Babylonian. And as Daniel tells us, the Babylonian would be conquered by the Medo-Persian, would be conquered by Alexander the Great, would be conquered by the Romans. Okay? So that's the condition in the world of Isaiah 1.